AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiance stay in my house, even though she claims she has nowhere else to go. So, this is going to be a bit long because the situation is complicated, but I'll try to be as clear as possible. I, 28F, live in a medium-sized city in a two-bedroom apartment that I rent. I have a roommate, my best friend from college, 26F, who has been living with me for about 2 years. Things have been going smoothly, and we have a routine that works for both of us. My brother, Jason, 30M, has been dating his fiancée, Emily, 27F, for 3 years. I'll try to keep names straight. About a week ago, I got a call from Emily in tears. She told me that she and Jason had gotten into a huge fight, and she had been kicked out of their apartment temporarily. She explained that Jason had told her she needed space to figure things out, and had made her leave. She said she had nowhere else to go and begged if she could stay with me for a few days. Now, my first reaction was empathy because no one deserves to be on the street, especially in a city where housing is expensive and temporary shelters are not always safe. But I also knew that my apartment is small. I live with my roommate, who also works from home, and I have a cat who gets stressed easily with new people. My roommate was out of town when Emily called, and I was put on the spot. I told Emily that I couldn't promise her anything immediately because I needed to check with my roommate first. I explained that our space is tight, and having an extra person could create problems. Emily started crying more and said, "But it's Jason's sister. Don't you care about me? I thought you were family." I felt guilty, but I still didn't commit. Later that evening, I called my roommate to explain the situation. She immediately said she didn't want to host Emily. She has a history with people staying over without notice. Her ex once stayed for a week and ended up trashing the place, and she was adamant that she didn't feel comfortable. I told Emily that unfortunately, I couldn't have her over right now, and suggested some local short-term hostels or friends she might be able to reach out to. This is where things escalated. Emily texted Jason saying that I was turning her away and being unfamily. Jason called me the next day. He was furious. He said I was being heartless and that I owed Emily at least a few days of shelter. I explained that my apartment is small, that I live with a roommate who doesn't feel comfortable, and that I couldn't force someone to host her. He kept insisting, saying, "She's my fiancée. You should be helping her. It's family." I reminded him that Emily is not my sister. She is his partner, and that I'm not responsible for her housing. Then my brother dropped the kicker. He said that my refusal was going to cost me our relationship, and that if I cared about him, I would find a way to make it work. He even suggested I could sleep on the couch, so she can have a bedroom, which, frankly, seemed unreasonable to me. My roommate and I also have a lease that restricts subleasing or long-term guests, and I didn't want to violate that. Emily, meanwhile, started posting on social media about how my sister-in-law is turning me away in my time of need. A few mutual friends messaged me asking why I was being cruel. This made me feel even worse. I tried to explain privately that my apartment is genuinely too small, but the response was mostly negative. I offered a compromise. I would help Emily find temporary housing, cover a few nights at a nearby hostel, and even give her some essentials until she found a stable place. Emily refused and said she didn't want a half-hearted solution and insisted she needed to stay at my place. Jason continued to call me daily, each time more aggressive and accusing me of choosing rules over family. Now, it's been a week, and Emily has been staying with a friend she found, but she has not spoken to me directly since the fight. Jason is still giving me the silent treatment and has told multiple relatives that I refuse to help his fiancée in her time of crisis. My roommate supports me fully, saying she doesn't want anyone staying here without advance notice, especially someone who could create tension or interfere with her work-from-home schedule. I do feel guilty because I know Emily was genuinely in a tough spot, and I can see why my brother is upset, but I also feel that I have boundaries that should be respected. I wasn't refusing to help in general. I tried to offer solutions, but apparently, nothing short of opening my home was acceptable to them. So, AITA here, did I handle this wrong by refusing to host Emily even for a few days, or were my boundaries reasonable? The family tension is high, and I feel like no matter what I do, someone will be upset. I'm trying to balance empathy, personal space, and my roommate's comfort, but it's exhausting. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiance use my house for their wedding rehearsal, even though it's been in the family for decades. This is going to be long, so please bear with me. I, 32F, have always been really close to my family, especially my younger sister, Megan, 28F. Our family home, which I currently own, has been in the family for 3 generations. It's a modest but beautiful Victorian house with a large backyard, and we've had countless family events there. I bought it from my parents about 5 years ago after they retired, and I've been living there ever since. Megan recently got engaged to her fiancé, Alex, 30M, and they've been planning their wedding for next summer. It's supposed to be a relatively small, intimate event, mostly family and close friends, but they've been very clear that they want every aspect to be perfect. Last month, she called me out of the blue and asked if she could use my house for their wedding rehearsal. She made it sound casual, like it would just be a few people for an afternoon, but the more I pressed for details, the more I realized she was expecting the entire rehearsal dinner and the pre-wedding photos to happen at my house over 2 days. At first, I said I'd think about it because I wasn't sure how I felt. My house is my personal space, and while I love my sister, I have routines, furniture that's difficult to replace, and a garden that I maintain meticulously. I tried to explain that I could host a small dinner or a few hours of rehearsal, but she kept pushing. She started mentioning how it would be so convenient and so meaningful to have it in our childhood home. A few days later, she sent me a detailed schedule. It included a caterer setting up in the backyard, professional photographers coming in for 2 full hours, a small band, and a whole string of activities that would basically turn my house into a mini wedding venue for the day. She also mentioned having a tent erected in the garden. I immediately felt overwhelmed and uncomfortable. I told her I didn't feel it was feasible, and that while I loved the idea of being part of her wedding, my home wasn't suitable for such a big setup. She got upset and said I was being ridiculous and selfish because it's just for 1 day. She claimed I was the only person she knew who could host it, and that it would be cheaper than renting a venue. I tried to compromise. I offered to help her find a nearby hall or to host a small brunch the morning after the wedding instead, something low-key. She said that wasn't good enough and accused me of not supporting her happiness and hating Alex, which is completely not true. I actually like Alex a lot, and I wanted to help as much as I could without compromising my own space. The situation escalated when she started hinting that our parents might side with her. I spoke with them, and they agreed that it's a lot to ask. They said they didn't want me to feel pressured to give up my house, but they also didn't want to get involved in family drama. Megan, however, has been sending group texts with subtle guilt tripping, like, "It's a shame you're letting this opportunity pass. It would have meant so much to everyone, and I guess we'll just have to ruin my wedding photos by going somewhere else." Things came to a head last weekend when she came over unannounced. She had brought a planner with her and wanted to walk through the layout of the backyard and living room. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that and that she needed to respect my decision. She got visibly upset and stormed out, saying she couldn't believe I would do this to her and Alex. Since then, she has barely spoken to me except for curt messages, and she's posting passive-aggressive things on social media about familial support and love that are clearly aimed at me. I feel terrible because I don't want to be the villain in my sister's wedding story, but I also feel like my boundaries are being completely ignored. I've spent a lot of time and money making this house my sanctuary, and I just can't see myself allowing a multi-day event that would likely leave me stressed, my home damaged, and my routines disrupted. I also feel like the guilt she's trying to impose is unfair. My partner, 34M, supports me fully, saying it's my house and my decision, but I still worry about how this might affect my relationship with Megan long-term. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding rehearsal, even though it has sentimental value to our family. I feel like I'm protecting my space, but part of me worries that I'm being too rigid and unsupportive. The more she pushes, the more I feel backed into a corner, and I don't want to be the bad guy, but the more she pushes, the more resentment I feel creeping in. I honestly don't know how to navigate this without completely damaging our relationship. I'd love some perspective from people who aren't emotionally involved in the family drama, because right now I feel like I'm in the middle of a tug of war between love for my sister and maintaining my personal boundaries. This has become a bigger deal than I ever imagined, and every attempt to compromise has been met with more pressure. So I'm questioning if my reluctance to host is truly unreasonable. Any advice or opinions would be appreciated. I just want to do the right thing, but I also want to protect my home and my peace of mind. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiance's past actions. So this is going to be long, but I'll try to give all the necessary context. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emma, 25F, who is getting married in about 2 months. I've always been close to Emma, but we have very different personalities. I'm more cautious and tend to value consistency and trust in relationships, whereas Emma is more impulsive and idealistic. About 6 months ago, Emma met her now fiancé, Jason, 30M, through work. He seemed charming and fun at first. I tried to meet him a few times, and while he was polite, there were moments that gave me pause. For one, he would often make offhand comments about ex-girlfriends in a way that felt disrespectful. Then, I started noticing that he would occasionally brag about bending rules or getting away with things at work. It wasn't overtly criminal, but it came across as a bit manipulative. I decided to hold my tongue, thinking maybe I was overanalyzing. The real red flags came when I accidentally stumbled across some information online. Jason has a documented history of harassing a former partner, which I confirmed through news articles and court records. He was charged with a harassment order 5 years ago, and it was public record. I didn't tell Emma immediately because I wasn't sure how to approach it without sounding judgmental or paranoid. Fast forward a few months, and Emma is now fully engaged. I tried gently hinting at the importance of knowing someone's past, but Emma waved it off, saying people change and that Jason is a good guy now. I didn't argue further because I didn't want to create unnecessary tension, but I remained very wary. Then came last week when things got worse. I found out that Jason had been spreading some very personal rumors about a former colleague at his previous job. The colleague had confided in a mutual friend of mine, and the details were serious. Nothing illegal this time, but extremely disrespectful and harmful. I sent Emma a private message explaining everything I knew. I try to be factual and non-accusatory, stating, "I'm sharing this because I care about you and don't want to see you get hurt." Emma exploded at me. She accused me of trying to sabotage her happiness, saying I was being judgmental and controlling. She blocked me on social media and told our parents she doesn't want me involved in the wedding planning. I tried calling her, explaining that I wasn't trying to control her life but wanted her to be informed about her partner's history, but she refuses to listen. Now, I'm in a dilemma. I've been asked to be a bridesmaid, but after what happened, I don't feel comfortable attending. I don't want to support a wedding that, in my view, involves someone who has repeatedly shown a lack of respect for others. My parents and some family members are furious at me for even suggesting I might not attend, calling me dramatic, and accusing me of being selfish. They argue that Emma is an adult and can make her own decisions, and that my presence or absence won't affect the wedding. I understand that Emma is making her own choices, but I feel like attending would compromise my own values and send a message that I condone Jason's behavior. I tried reasoning with my parents, saying, "It's not about controlling Emma. It's about me not being able to morally celebrate this union when I know what I know." They argue that it's better to support her regardless and hope she sees the truth eventually, but I feel that doing so would make me complicit. I'm leaning heavily towards skipping the wedding, but now my extended family is pressuring me, saying it will create a huge rift. My friends are split. Some say I'm justified in protecting myself and maintaining my boundaries, while others say I'm overreacting and should just show up for my sister. I don't even know if she'll forgive me if I don't go. But at the same time, I can't pretend to feel comfortable celebrating a man I genuinely believe has a pattern of manipulative and harmful behavior. So, AITA for considering not attending my sister's wedding because of her fiance's past and present actions. Additional context that might be relevant. I have a history of standing up for friends and family when I see red flags, so this isn't coming out of nowhere. Emma and I have generally had a strong relationship, but she can be stubborn, especially when it comes to her romantic life. I've never publicly shamed Jason, but I have told mutual friend about my concerns. I genuinely don't want to hurt my sister, but I also can't ignore what I've learned about Jason. The wedding is supposed to be a joyful event, and I fear there would be a constant source of stress and moral conflict for me. I'm torn between loyalty to my sister and loyalty to my own principles, and I need to know if I'm in the wrong here. AITA for refusing to babysit my niece after my sister insulted me in front of my family. So I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F, and we've always had a bit of a tense relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child type, smart, popular, athletic, while I was quieter and more introverted. Our parents always encouraged us to support each other, but there was definitely favoritism toward Emily. I've mostly accepted it over the years and tried to stay out of her way, but things came to a head recently. Emily has a daughter, Lily, who is 4 years old. I've never been super close to her, mostly because of the tension with Emily, and also because I live about an hour away. But every now and then I've babysat Lily when Emily has work emergencies or needs a night out. I usually don't mind helping, but I also make it clear that I can't drop everything last minute because I have my own life and commitments. Last weekend, Emily called me out of the blue on Friday evening asking if I could watch Lily Saturday afternoon. She said she had an unexpected meeting and didn't want to cancel it. I reminded her that I had plans. My friend was hosting a small dinner that I was already committed to, and that I couldn't change them on such short notice. She immediately started guilt-tripping me, saying, "I'm your sister, and this is family. You're being selfish. Lily doesn't have anyone else. You could just cancel your plans, can't you?" I tried to stay calm and said no. I explained that I had my plans and that this was too last minute. I suggested that she ask our parents or one of her other friends who often helps with Lily. Emily got huffy and ended the conversation, saying she would figure out herself, which I thought was fair enough. Here's where it got messy. Saturday evening, my parents called me, asking why I didn't step up for Lily. I told them the same thing I told Emily. It was last minute, and I had prior plans. My mom said, "You're really letting your sister down. Lily needed you." I tried to explain that I wasn't refusing to help in general, just that I couldn't change my schedule at the last minute. My dad just sighed and said, "Family should be more important than your social plans." Then Sunday came, and we had a family dinner. Emily was there with Lily, and she brought up the babysitting issue in front of everyone. She said, "I guess some people care more about their little dinner parties than family." I stayed quiet, but then she added, "Honestly, it's so typical of you. You never put anyone before yourself. Lily doesn't even remember the last time you spent time with her willingly." I felt blindsided and embarrassed. I calmly replied, "I care about Lily a lot, but I also have commitments. I'm happy to babysit when we can plan in advance, but I can't drop everything every time." Emily laughed and said, "Wow, so now you're making rules about when you want to care about family. That's pathetic." The rest of the dinner was tense, with my parents trying to mediate and Emily making little digs at me whenever she could. I ended up leaving early because I felt humiliated. Afterwards, my sister sent me a long text saying I was a bad aunt and a selfish sister. She also mentioned that she had asked my parents for help too, and they apparently made excuses not to babysit, which made her even more frustrated with me. She said I was the only one who could have helped without complaining. I haven't responded because I don't know what to say. I genuinely feel like I was within my rights to say no. My plans were important to me, and I don't think I owe anyone my time at the drop of a hat. On the other hand, I do feel a little guilty because Lily is my niece and I do enjoy spending time with her. But I don't want to feel pressured into canceling plans every time my sister decides she needs a break. My parents are clearly leaning toward Emily, which is frustrating. I've tried explaining my side calmly, but they keep saying I need to think of the family first. I'm torn because I don't want to burn bridges, but I also don't want to be treated like the villain every time I say no. AITA for refusing to babysit my niece on short notice, even though my sister and parents think I should have dropped everything for her. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiance's behavior. I, 28F, have always been close to my older sister, Emily, 32F. Growing up, we were inseparable, sharing clothes, secrets, and even friends at times. When Emily got engaged last year, I was genuinely happy for her. I've always believed in supporting family events and celebrating milestones. But over the past few months, the engagement has started to reveal a side of Emily's fiancé, Mark, 34M, that I can't reconcile with, and now I'm questioning whether attending their wedding is the right thing to do. When Emily first introduced Mark to our family, everyone was charmed. He was polite, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in Emily's life. For the first few months, things went smoothly, and I made an effort to include him in family events. But over time, I started noticing little things that made me uncomfortable. At first, it was subtle. He would make jokes that fell off, sometimes about women in general, sometimes about my job and social work. I brushed it off, thinking he was just awkward or that maybe I was overreacting. The bigger issues started when wedding planning began. Emily and I initially planned to handle the guest list together, but Mark insisted on having the final say. He vetoed friends and relatives who he thought were too negative or too opinionated. At first, I didn't mind because I assumed he was just protective, but the list started shrinking drastically. Cousins who were never close to Emily were being excluded, and even some of my friends, who had known Emily for years, were told they couldn't come because Mark didn't like them. It felt controlling, and when I voiced my concern, he brushed it off and said, "It's our wedding, not yours." I reminded him that Emily was still including me in the planning, but he snapped and said, "Well, maybe you should just stay out of it then." Things got worse when he started joking about my lifestyle and choices. I live alone in a city 2 hours away and have a cat. And Mark constantly makes comments about how I'll never settle down or that my career is cute, but not real work. I tried to ignore him at first, but during a dinner with Emily's parents, he openly criticized my work in front of everyone, implying that social work is easy compared to his corporate job. I was embarrassed and furious, but Emily just laughed awkwardly and changed the subject. The tipping point happened last month. Emily and I were discussing bridesmaid dresses, and I suggested a few options. Mark immediately interjected and said, "I don't like any of these. She should wear something classic, nothing flashy. Don't try to turn her into a clown." I told him that Emily should pick what she likes, and he snapped, raising his voice and calling me overly sensitive and dramatic. Emily didn't defend me. She just said, "Mark's just stressed about the wedding. Ignore him." At that point, I realized that Emily was unwilling to set boundaries with him and that he had a pattern of belittling anyone he felt was challenging him. I tried to have a calm conversation with Emily about all of this. I told her that Mark's behavior makes me uncomfortable and that I'm worried it will only get worse if I attend the wedding. I emphasized that I love her and want to support her, but I also need to protect my own mental health. Emily got defensive and accused me of attacking Mark and trying to control her relationship. She said, "If you can't handle a few comments, maybe you shouldn't come at all." I explained that it's not about a single comment. It's the pattern and the fact that she doesn't address it. She cried and said that I was being unreasonable and that she needs her family at her wedding, implying that my absence would be hurtful to her. After a week of arguing, I made my decision. I sent Emily a message saying I couldn't attend the wedding because I can't be around someone who constantly disrespects me, and I can't stand by silently while she allows that behavior. I offered to celebrate with her in another way after the wedding, like a dinner or a day out, but I made it clear I could not be present for the ceremony itself. The fallout has been intense. Emily has been texting me almost daily, saying things like, "I can't believe you're choosing him over me," and "I thought family meant supporting each other, but clearly I was wrong." My parents are split. My mom says I'm justified because Mark has been disrespectful, but my dad thinks I'm overreacting and should just grin and bear it for one day. Some friends have reached out to say that I did the right thing by standing up for myself, but I feel guilty because I know this is one of the biggest days of Emily's life. Mark hasn't directly confronted me, but I've heard from mutual friends that he's making comments about me being the problem and jealous of Emily. Emily keeps insisting that she'll try to make Mark understand my perspective, but I'm not convinced that will change anything. I love my sister, but I also cannot be in an environment where I am belittled and ignored, especially by someone she is about to marry. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiance's behavior? I feel like I'm protecting myself, but I also feel like I might be letting my sister down on one of the most important days of her life. The situation is tense, and I don't see a clear resolution without either me compromising my boundaries or Emily confronting Mark, which I don't think will happen. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he refused to accommodate my dietary restrictions? I, 29F, have always had a somewhat complicated relationship with my family, especially my older brother, Mark, 32M. Growing up, our relationship was mostly cordial but competitive. We never got along perfectly, but we respected each other's space as adults. Things have been okay between us until recently when he announced his engagement to Clara, 30F, who I had met a handful of times and liked, though we weren't exactly close. Mark started planning his wedding about a year ago. At first, it was mostly harmless. He asked for advice on venues, catering, and guest lists. However, things started to get tense when the topic of food came up. I have several food restrictions due to health reasons. I am allergic to shellfish and nuts, and I have a severe gluten intolerance. These aren't preferences. They are medical issues that can make me extremely sick if ignored. So when he asked me what I could eat, I sent a detailed list of what was safe, including alternatives and suggestions for the caterer. At first, I thought he was receptive. He said he would make sure there's something I can eat. But as the months went on, I started noticing subtle digs and dismissive comments. For example, during the cake tasting, he joked that we'll just get a separate cake for you, since everything else will probably make you die. I laughed it off, but I was a little annoyed. Then, when we were discussing appetizers, he told me it would be impossible to make anything for me and that I should just bring a snack or eat beforehand. I tried to reason with him. I explained that these are serious medical restrictions, not just picky eating. I offered to help coordinate with the caterer or even provide a list of safe restaurants nearby for the event. I also made it clear that I would not attend if I couldn't eat safely, because an allergic reaction would be dangerous. This is where things escalated. Mark got defensive and accused me of making everything about me and trying to ruin the wedding. He said that accommodating me would be too expensive and inconvenient, and that I was being unreasonable. I felt blindsided because I had been nothing but polite and proactive. I told him I understood if he didn't want to cater specifically to me, but I could not risk attending if there were no safe food options. I even offered to pay for a separate meal if that helped. The tension between us grew. His fiancée started messaging me directly, asking me to lighten up and just eat a salad or something. I tried explaining the medical risks, but they brushed it off as dramatic. I ended up blocked on her social media because I continued to express concern about attending without proper accommodations. 2 weeks ago, Mark sent out the final invitations. I noticed that my name was on the RSVP list, but there was no note regarding food restrictions. I called him to ask if there would be a safe option, and he told me bluntly that he wasn't planning on providing anything special for me and that I could either deal with it or not come. I told him I couldn't attend under those circumstances. He exploded. He accused me of trying to sabotage his wedding, of being selfish, and of embarrassing the family. He's been sending group texts to my parents, his friends, and other family members, framing me as unreasonable and making me the villain. My parents are upset with me and think I should just go and skip the food, which isn't a solution when my health is at risk. I feel caught in a moral dilemma. On one hand, I want to support my brother and celebrate his wedding. On the other hand, I feel he's being completely unreasonable and dismissive of my medical needs. I even offered multiple compromises like paying for my own meal, bringing my own food, or having a small safe selection prepared, but he refused all of them. Now my family is split. Some say I'm doing the right thing by prioritizing my health, while others think I'm overreacting and being dramatic, accusing me of holding a grudge against Mark. Friends outside the family are divided too. Some say I should set boundaries, and some think I'm missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime event. The fallout has been intense. Mark refuses to speak to me, and my parents keep sending passive-aggressive texts about family loyalty. I haven't spoken to Clara at all since being blocked, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for taking care of myself. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because he refused to accommodate my dietary restrictions. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner because of a past issue with my husband. So this is going to be a long one, and I honestly still feel like I'm in the wrong, but here it goes. My sister, let's call her Emily, is getting married in a few months. She and her fiance, Mark, are relatively young but very serious, and honestly, I've been excited for her. Emily and I are close, but we've always had this weird dynamic where she gets more attention in the family because she's the golden child, and I'm the one who everyone thinks is a bit dramatic. I've mostly gotten over it, but it still stings sometimes. A few years ago, Emily threw me a surprise birthday party. It was memorable, but not in the way you'd hope. My husband, Ryan, has social anxiety and doesn't do well in large, crowded situations. I had told Emily beforehand, several times, that Ryan doesn't enjoy surprises or big crowds, but she insisted it would be fine and that everyone just needed to meet him. The night of the party, she had invited over 50 people to our tiny apartment. Ryan was uncomfortable, overwhelmed, and eventually left early, which caused a huge scene because Emily made it very clear in front of everyone that he was being rude and not appreciating her efforts. He ended up crying in the car, and I was furious at Emily for ignoring my very clear requests. I didn't speak to her for about a week after that, and even though we reconciled, there was still tension. She never really apologized, just said she didn't think it would be that big of a deal. Fast forward to now, Emily and Mark have been planning their wedding for about a year, and she asked me to host the rehearsal dinner. I'll be honest, hosting a rehearsal dinner is a huge deal, especially for someone like me who works full-time and has other obligations. But what really triggered me is that she specifically wants it at my house. I have a small house, not designed for entertaining large groups, and the thought of hosting 20 to 30 people in a space that isn't accommodating makes me anxious. On top of that, I have lingering resentment from the birthday incident. The thought of Emily ignoring my boundaries again makes my blood boil. I told her that I couldn't host it at my house because of space constraints and because of Ryan's anxiety. She immediately got defensive and said, "You're my sister. You should be willing to do this for me. It's one night, it's not a big deal, and Ryan can just deal with it for a few hours." I explained calmly that it's not just about one night. It's about respecting our boundaries. Ryan has been making progress with his anxiety, but sudden, large social situations are still very difficult for him, and I am not willing to put him through something that could seriously upset him. Emily then started listing reasons why I had a host. It's tradition, the guests will feel awkward if we have it somewhere else, and even you owe me after all the times I've helped you. I try to reason with her, suggesting alternatives like renting a small event space or even doing it at a restaurant, but she dismissed every option. She said that if I didn't host, she would just have it at Mark's parents' house, which is double the distance from most of the family. But she made it very clear that she was hurt and that I was choosing Ryan over her. Things escalated when she posted in our family group chat, subtly shaming me. She wrote something along the lines of, "I guess not everyone wants to make family celebrations special. Some of us only think about themselves." That felt like a direct attack, and I ended up responding angrily, saying, "I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to compromise my husband's well-being and my own peace of mind for a rehearsal dinner. You can host it wherever you want, but my house is not an option." Now the whole family is involved. My parents are upset with me because Emily is crying to them that I'm being selfish and difficult. Ryan is stressed because he doesn't want to cause family drama, but he's also relieved I'm standing my ground. Emily's fiance seems stuck in the middle and is trying to convince her to accept another venue, but Emily is adamant. She's even threatened to not invite us to some of the pre-wedding events if I don't give in, which I find manipulative and incredibly hurtful. I feel torn. On one hand, I really don't want to host and don't think I should have to, especially after everything with the birthday party. On the other hand, my family and Emily are making me feel like a bad sister and like I'm overreacting. Part of me worries that if I don't host, it will create permanent tension, and I hate the thought of my relationship with my sister deteriorating before her wedding. I also feel a little guilty because Emily is technically right that a rehearsal dinner is usually hosted by the family, and I know my parents would have loved to help, but they're also older and not in a position to organize it. I've offered financial help and even help planning, but she keeps insisting it has to be at my house. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner at my house because of my husband's anxiety and a past incident that still affects me. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiance's behavior. I, 29F, have always been close to my family, especially my younger sister, Emily, 26F. Growing up, we shared a lot, confided in each other, and were each other's biggest supporters. I thought we were still very close, which is why the situation with her fiancé, Matt, 30M, has been so difficult for me. Emily started dating Matt about 2 years ago. At first, I didn't have strong feelings either way, but over time, I noticed certain things that bothered me. He is charming in public, but manipulative behind closed doors. He often tries to subtly control Emily's decisions, from the clothes she wears to the friends she spends time with. I tried to ignore it first, thinking maybe I was overreacting, but the more I observed, the more uncomfortable I became. The tipping point came a few months ago when Emily confided in me about a major issue at work. Matt had convinced her to quit a job she loved because he felt it was beneath her potential and that she should focus on something more prestigious, even though she had expressed she enjoyed her role and was doing well. When she shared this with me, I listened and gently suggested that she should make her own choices rather than letting him dictate her life. She brushed it off and said she appreciated his guidance, but I could see she was frustrated with the situation. As the wedding planning progressed, I tried to stay supportive. I helped with decorations, gave input when asked, and even offered to host a pre-wedding gathering. But then I noticed something that made me seriously question attending the wedding. Matt started making veiled comments about me. He said things like, "It's great your sister has such an independent streak, unlike some people I know," or, "I hope you won't embarrass Emily on her big day by being dramatic." At first, I laughed it off, but the comments became more pointed. He even criticized my career choices in front of Emily, suggesting that I wasn't ambitious enough. I confronted Emily about it, explaining that I felt uncomfortable around Matt and that his comments were increasingly disrespectful. She told me I was overreacting and accused me of trying to sabotage her happiness. I tried to reassure her that I wanted her to be happy, but that I couldn't ignore the way he treated me. She became upset, insisting that I was being judgmental and controlling. A couple of weeks ago, Emily asked me directly whether I would attend the wedding. I hesitated, not wanting to hurt her, but also not wanting to subject myself to Matt's behavior. I told her honestly that I couldn't attend as long as Matt's attitude toward me remained the same. Emily was furious. She called me selfish, saying that I was putting my personal feelings above her happiness and that I was choosing a fight over family. I tried to explain that this wasn't about trying to ruin her day, but about my own boundaries and mental health. I suggested perhaps we could talk with a mediator or even attend separately in some capacity, but she refused. She cut off communication for several days and then sent me a long message filled with guilt-tripping, saying things like, "I can't believe my own sister won't be there for me when I need her most. You've always been difficult, and now you're proving it on the most important day of my life." I feel torn. Part of me wants to apologize and attend for the sake of family, but another part of me feels like my feelings are being completely invalidated and ignored. I've spoken to my parents, and they're frustrated with me, saying that I'm overreacting and that Emily has a right to expect me at her wedding. But I can't shake the feeling that attending would compromise my self-respect and sanity. On one hand, I don't want to lose my sister entirely over this. On the other hand, I feel like I'd be teaching Matt that it's okay to disrespect me without consequence. My friends are split. Some say I'm right to stand my ground, while others think I'm overthinking and should just go for Emily's sake. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I can't tolerate her fiance's behavior? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend live with us after a temporary breakup. I, 28F, live in a fairly small two-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. I share it with my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Our relationship has always been a bit complicated. Growing up, we were close but competitive, and even as adults, she tends to rely on me a lot emotionally and financially. She's sweet but a little reckless and tends to make impulsive decisions without considering consequences. I'm more organized and stable, so most of the time, I end up being the responsible one, which works most of the time, though it can be draining. Emily has been in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend, Mark, 27M, for about 3 years. I like him well enough. He's polite and seems nice, though I don't feel particularly close to him. Emily and Mark had a bit of a rough patch recently. I don't know all the details, but apparently, Mark did something to upset Emily, and she asked for some space. They agreed to take a break for a month to figure things out. That's where the problem started. About a week into their break, Emily calls me late at night, sounding frantic. She says Mark is temporarily homeless because his roommate kicked him out. He allegedly didn't pay rent on time. She says she feels bad and wants to help him, and asks if he can stay at our apartment for a few days until he sorts things out. I hesitated immediately. Our apartment is small, and I work from home full-time. I also don't want to host someone I'm not really close to, especially since Emily and Mark are on a break. I told her that I didn't feel comfortable having him stay here, especially since I didn't really know him well enough to host him long-term, and that this is our personal space. Emily got upset, arguing that it's only a temporary thing and that I'm being selfish and unsupportive. She also said that Mark has nowhere else to go and I should just help a friend in need. I tried to reason with her. I told her that even if it's temporary, having Mark in our apartment would put me in an uncomfortable position. I'd have to rearrange my work schedule, share the bathroom and bedroom space, and generally give up my own home life. Plus, I didn't want to feel like I was babysitting someone I barely know. Emily started crying over the phone, saying I'm cruel and that I always prioritize myself over the family. I said I understand she feels bad for Mark, but it's not my responsibility to accommodate him, especially when Emily and Mark aren't even officially together at the moment. She got more upset and started guilt-tripping me, saying that if I really cared about her, I would let him stay, at least temporarily. She even implied that I'm selfish and lack empathy, which really hurt because I do try to help her whenever she needs it, financially or otherwise. The conversation ended with Emily hanging up on me. A few days later, she came over in person, crying, and said she can't believe I refused to help someone in need, and she thinks I hate Mark. I tried to explain that I don't hate him, but that doesn't mean I need to host him, especially in such a small space and with their relationship in flux. Emily stormed out, saying that I'm a terrible sister and she can't believe I'd let Mark be homeless over my pride. She didn't talk to me for a few days. During that time, Mark tried reaching out to me via text, asking if he could stay, and I reiterated that I'm not comfortable with it. He was polite, but clearly frustrated. Emily later told me she's furious at me and that she might not speak to me for a while because she feels I've crossed a line by refusing to help. A few friends and extended family members have weighed in. Some of them think I was reasonable because I'm not obligated to host someone, especially someone I'm not particularly close to. Others say I should have at least helped Mark for a night or two, just until he found a place. Emily has posted about it on social media, framing me as selfish and uncaring, which has caused some awkward tension with mutual friends. Honestly, I'm stressed because I feel like I'm being vilified for trying to set reasonable boundaries. I do feel bad that Mark doesn't have a place to stay, but I also feel like it's not my responsibility. Emily keeps insisting that if I really loved her, I would let him stay, and I feel guilty because I do love her, but I also feel like she's trying to manipulate me with guilt and emotion. AITA for refusing to let Mark stay at our apartment? I feel like I'm being reasonable and protecting my personal space, but the backlash from Emily and others has me second-guessing myself. Update: Emily and I are barely speaking now, and Mark ended up staying with a friend of his. Emily is still upset at me. AITA for refusing to help my sister after she deliberately caused me to lose a major job opportunity. I, 28F, have always tried to support my younger sister, Emily, 24F, even when she made questionable choices. Growing up, Emily had a tendency to be manipulative and dramatic, but I brushed it off as typical sibling rivalry. However, recent events have made me question if I'm being unreasonable for finally putting my boundaries up. I recently landed what I thought was my dream job. I had been in the application process for months, and it was a very competitive position at a company I've admired for years. The interview process was intense, and I poured my heart and soul into preparing. I felt confident, and everything was pointing to me being a top candidate. I had one final step, which involved submitting a portfolio and some references, and then a formal offer would likely follow. Emily, on the other hand, has been struggling to find stable work since graduating college. She often complains that the world is against her, and I've tried to support her by helping her polish her resume and giving her advice on interviews. I've been patient with her, even when she would vent about not wanting to put in the effort herself. A week before I was supposed to submit my final materials, Emily called me in a panic. She claimed she had been scheduled for a job interview at the same company and was terrified she wouldn't get it. I didn't think much of it initially, assuming she had applied for a different department or role. She asked me if I could help by giving her a reference, since she didn't have any previous work experience beyond internships. I hesitated, knowing that the company had strict rules about references, but Emily begged and promised she would never let it affect my application. I reluctantly agreed, thinking I could support her without harming myself. The day before I was supposed to submit my materials, I discovered that Emily had not only applied for the same role, but had also listed me as a reference without telling me. When I confronted her, she admitted it, but said it was just in case she needed it. I was furious, but I didn't want to ruin our relationship. So I agreed to be a reference, but made it clear I would only answer honestly if they contacted me. The next morning, I received a call from the company's HR department. They informed me that during my interview and reference checks, some inconsistencies had been found in my portfolio and experiences. They had also spoken to Emily, who had exaggerated my involvement in projects she claimed to have worked on with me, making it seem like I had taken credit for her work. HR said this raised concerns about integrity, and although they acknowledged my talent, they decided to move forward with another candidate. I was devastated. Not only had I lost my dream job, but I also realized that Emily had deliberately sabotaged me. I confronted her, and she didn't deny it. Instead, she said that she needed a chance too, and that I always get everything handed to me. She claimed I was being unfair by being upset because she just wanted to succeed. I felt betrayed, hurt, and angry. I have since cut off contact with her temporarily because I can't trust her after what happened. She's now accusing me of being cold, selfish, and overreacting because I won't help her apply for other jobs or support her in the way I used to. She keeps messaging me, asking why I'm punishing her, and I've been firm about needing distance. My parents are involved now and have taken her side, saying that I should forgive her and help her because family always comes first and she's young and doesn't know better. I feel like I'm being gaslit. I love my sister, but this feels like a clear boundary violation and sabotage of my career. I've tried explaining to them that what she did was not just a minor mistake, but a deliberate act that cost me a huge opportunity. I've reminded them that helping someone doesn't mean letting them harm you or your future. They insist I'm overreacting and being too harsh. Friends I've confided in are supportive, saying I'm not the asshole for protecting myself, but the tension with my family is immense. Emily claims I've lost perspective and that my career isn't everything, implying that my reaction is disproportionate. I feel like I'm being punished for setting boundaries. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister after she deliberately sabotaged my career, even though our parents think I should forgive her and resume supporting her like before. The situation has left me questioning not only my relationship with Emily, but also my family's sense of loyalty and fairness. I'm trying to process whether I'm justified in my anger and my decision to create distance, or if I'm being unreasonable for not forgiving her and immediately going back to helping her, as if nothing happened. This has been one of the hardest things I've dealt with in terms of family dynamics. And I can't shake the feeling that what she did was an unforgivable breach of trust. I know everyone makes mistakes, but this felt calculated and intentional, and I'm struggling with whether family loyalty should override the consequences of her actions. AITA for refusing to let my sister stay with me after she forgot to book a hotel for her wedding weekend. So, a little context. I, 32F, have been living in the same apartment in Chicago for the last 8 years. I work in tech, my life is fairly routine, and I value my space. My sister, Lily, 28F, has always been more of a free spirit, very social, and extremely impulsive. She tends to live in the moment and sometimes forgets that her decisions affect other people. Our relationship has generally been close, but there have always been tensions around boundaries and responsibilities. Last month, Lily got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. She's been talking about this wedding nonstop, and honestly, I was happy for her, but I also noticed that she hadn't started booking anything very early. She's the type to procrastinate until the last possible moment. I figured she'd eventually get her act together, but apparently, eventually wasn't quick enough. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. Lily called me in a panic. She had completely forgotten to book a hotel for the wedding weekend, and all the nearby hotels were either sold out or outrageously expensive. She asked if she could stay at my apartment for 3 nights. I paused because, to be honest, hosting anyone, even family, is not something I enjoy. My apartment is small, and I like my routine. But I also didn't want her to be in a terrible situation, so I asked her to give me more details. She said, and I quote, "I know it's last minute, but I'll be there Thursday afternoon and leave Sunday morning. I promise I won't bother you, and I won't need anything except a bed to crash on." Here's where things got tricky. I have a very demanding job, and my apartment isn't exactly spacious. I have a studio apartment, which means my living room doubles as my bedroom, and I work from home. Essentially, there's no real guest room or separate space for someone to stay. I explained this to Lily and said I was really uncomfortable with the idea of her staying here, especially because I wouldn't be able to work or have any privacy. She got frustrated, saying, "It's just for 3 nights. I'm your sister. Can't you just help me out this one time?" I tried reasoning with her. I offered to help her search for alternative accommodations, and I even offered to pay a little more for a hotel if needed. I also suggested she could stay with our parents, who live about 20 minutes away. She shot down every option, saying the hotels were too far and that staying with our parents would be awkward. At this point, I stood firm and told her that my apartment simply wasn't an option. I explained again that I work from home, and having someone here would completely disrupt my life. She got very emotional, accused me of being selfish, and said I was choosing my comfort over family. She started crying on the phone and hung up. The next day, I received multiple texts and voicemails from her, saying things like, "I can't believe you won't help me when I really need it. I guess family doesn't mean much to you, and you're really going to regret this on my wedding day." I didn't respond to any of them. I thought maybe she'd come around, but she didn't. She ended up finding a hotel 2 hours away, which she complained about repeatedly. On the day of the wedding, she posted several cryptic messages on social media hinting that I had let her down when it mattered most. I didn't respond publicly or privately. Our parents are now involved. They think I was too harsh and that I should have let her stay for 3 nights. They keep saying things like, "It's just a few days. Can't you sacrifice a little for your sister?" I've tried explaining that it's not about being difficult. It's about boundaries and the reality of my living situation. They counter with, "But she's family. Family helps each other." I understand the family helps each other argument, and normally I would bend a little for someone in a genuine emergency. But this felt different. This was a problem caused entirely by Lily's lack of planning and expectation that I should drop everything to accommodate her. It wasn't like her house was destroyed or she had no place to sleep. It was an inconvenient situation she could have avoided. Now, my relationship with Lily is tense. She barely speaks to me, and our parents have been subtly criticizing me in conversations. I feel frustrated because I honestly try to help in other ways, but they all seem to fall short in their eyes. I also feel like if I had given in, it would set a precedent for future situations where she expects me to solve problems caused by her lack of foresight. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay at my apartment for 3 nights because of her poor planning, even though it caused drama with her and my parents. Some extra context I haven't mentioned. I offered to help her find other hotels, pay for a portion if it was too expensive, and even drive her back and forth if she stayed further away. My apartment is a studio, so hosting someone means zero privacy, and I work 50-plus hours a week from home. This isn't the first time she's dropped her responsibilities and expected me to save her. I just want to know if I'm the jerk here for sticking to my boundaries, even if it means disappointing my sister on a huge weekend in her life. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after what happened at our family reunion. So, I, 29F, have always been close to my sister, Lily, 27F, at least up until recently. Our relationship has been mostly positive. We grew up sharing a lot, had similar friends, and even worked together briefly during college. But over the past year, things have changed. I'll try to lay out the situation as clearly as possible because it's a long story, and honestly, I'm still torn about whether I overreacted or not. Last weekend, my extended family had a reunion at my parents' house. It's something we do once a year, and everyone, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, comes together for a weekend of eating, drinking, games, and catching up. Normally, I love these events, but this time it was stressful from the moment I arrived. My sister had invited her boyfriend, Matt, without telling me or my parents ahead of time. That's not a huge deal on its own, but Matt and I have never really gotten along. He's very opinionated, quick to make jokes at other people's expense, and honestly, he has a history of being rude without realizing it. When we all got together, it started off fine. We had lunch, some board games, and then someone suggested a big family photo. As we were lining up, Matt decided to start taking candid pictures of everyone and immediately posted one to his social media, tagging half of the people in the photo, including me. I'm very private about social media and don't like being tagged in pictures I haven't approved, so I asked him politely if he could delete the photo or untag me. He shrugged and said something like, "It's fine, it's just a photo," and didn't do it. I was already irritated, but I tried to brush it off because I didn't want to cause a scene in front of the whole family. Later that day, my sister suggested that we all play a drinking game, something we used to do in college. I agreed at first, but quickly realized that Matt was taking it way too far. He was being loud, teasing everyone, and making increasingly inappropriate jokes about relatives, including my cousin who had recently gone through a divorce. I felt uncomfortable and decided to step away for a few minutes to get some air. When I came back, Lily was sitting next to Matt, laughing at his jokes, and she looked at me and said, "Relax, it's just a game. Stop being so uptight." I told her I didn't feel comfortable with what he was saying and that I wasn't going to participate. She rolled her eyes and left to continue drinking with him. At this point, I started feeling frustrated, not just with Matt, but with my sister for essentially dismissing my feelings. I tried to ignore it for the rest of the afternoon, but then dinner came around. The table was crowded, and naturally, Matt was in the middle of it. At one point, he made a joke about me being so sensitive and suggested I should lighten up. I told him calmly that I didn't appreciate the comment, and he laughed it off. Lily then chimed in, saying I was overreacting and that I should learn to take a joke. I finally snapped. I raised my voice, told both of them that I wasn't going to sit there and be ridiculed, and got up from the table. I didn't go back to the dinner table for the rest of the night. The next morning, my parents pulled me aside to ask what happened because apparently the whole argument had been loud enough for multiple people to hear. I explained the situation calmly, emphasizing that I wasn't trying to start a fight, but that I didn't feel respected by Matt or my sister. My parents were sympathetic, but told me that Lily was upset and wanted me to apologize. I was taken aback because in my mind, I had done nothing wrong. I didn't insult her, I didn't start the argument, and I had tried to address my discomfort politely before it escalated. When I told Lily that I wasn't going to apologize because I believed I was in the right, she got furious. She called me stubborn, self-righteous, and accused me of trying to ruin her relationship with the family. She even said I was too dramatic for reacting the way I did and that I should get over it if I wanted to be part of the family gatherings. Our parents tried to mediate, but Lily refused to speak to me for the rest of the weekend and only interacted with Matt. After the reunion, things have been tense. Our family group chat is awkward. My parents keep trying to get us to reconcile, and Lily has blocked me on social media. I've been second-guessing myself because part of me wonders if I could have handled it better, maybe by ignoring Matt's jokes or not reacting so openly. But another part of me thinks that standing up for myself and setting boundaries is valid, and apologizing for that would feel wrong. I really don't want to create long-term tension in the family, but I also don't want to compromise my feelings or let someone disrespect me in my own family. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after what happened at our family reunion. Was I overreacting, or should I have just let it slide for the sake of peace? AITA for refusing to let my sister live with me after she lost her job. So I, 32F, have always prided myself on being responsible and independent. I have a steady job as a graphic designer, live in a modest but comfortable apartment, and have a routine that works for me. I'm not rich by any means, but I manage my finances well, and I like having my space. My sister, Emily, 28F, has always been a bit chaotic, to put nicely. She's smart and funny, but she tends to make impulsive decisions and struggles with managing her money and responsibilities. Emily recently lost her job at a marketing agency she'd been working at for about 2 years. According to her, the company downsized and she was unexpectedly let go. I didn't doubt that part, though based on past patterns, I suspected she hadn't been performing great either. Anyway, after a week of venting on social media and sending me long texts about how stressed she was, she called me and asked if she could move in with me temporarily until she gets back on her feet. I was taken aback. My first reaction was to think about my own space and mental health. I work from home half the time, and my apartment isn't that big. My home is my sanctuary. I have a routine I don't want disrupted, and I also value boundaries and privacy. I told her I wasn't comfortable with her moving in, but I offered to help in other ways, like helping her update her resume, review cover letters, or even connecting her with contacts in my network. Emily didn't take it well. She accused me of being selfish and not supporting family. She said I was overreacting and that I owed it to her because she's my sister and she had nowhere else to go. I reminded her that she has friends, her boyfriend's family, and there are short-term rentals or even subletting options, but she insisted that no one else could help her the way I could. She even brought up past situations where I'd borrowed money from our parents, implying that since I received support back then, I should now provide a roof for her. We got into a heated argument, and she started listing all the ways I'm supposedly unsympathetic. She said I was always the responsible one, and implied I was arrogant for thinking I could live without constantly rescuing her. She also reminded me that I've had roommates before and that if I could deal with strangers, I can deal with her. I told her that's not really comparable. Roommates are an agreement, a contract, and a mutual understanding of shared space. She's family, which complicates things, and I didn't want to risk our relationship or my mental health over this. After that, she sulked for a few days and started posting subtle things online about unsupportive siblings and being left to struggle alone, which my friends started noticing. My parents called me and asked why I was being so cold, and I explained my reasoning, but they seemed to side with her emotionally. They said I should think about family first, and that sometimes sacrifices are necessary. I tried to explain that I was offering practical help in other ways, but they kept pressing the point that letting her move in was the simplest solution. A week later, Emily called me again. This time, she sounded desperate. She said she had tried her friends, they couldn't take her in, and that she had to sleep in her car for a couple of nights if I didn't help. I was torn because I hate the thought of her being homeless, even temporarily. I asked her if she had tried contacting her former employer for severance or unemployment, or looking for short-term rental programs. She admitted she hadn't done much of that yet because she was too stressed and tired and needed immediate help. I still refused to let her move in. Instead, I gave her some money for an Airbnb for a week, helped her create a list of potential temporary housing options, and spent several hours helping her polish her resume and cover letters. She got angry again, saying that this wasn't enough and that I could do more if I really cared. She ended up finding a cheap studio in another part of the city, but she's still frustrated with me and barely talks to me now. My friends are split. Some say I was right to protect my space and mental health, and others say I could have done more. My parents are clearly disappointed, And my sister keeps sending me passive-aggressive texts about how family should help each other no matter what. Honestly, I feel guilty sometimes, but I also feel like letting her move in could have caused long-term resentment, tension, and stress for both of us. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister live with me after losing her job. AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her new boyfriend to my wedding after he insulted my fiance. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding to my fiance, Alex, 30M, for over a year now. Everything was going perfectly until a week ago when something happened that completely threw me off and has left me questioning if I was in the wrong for my reaction. My sister, Megan, 26F, has always been a little dramatic and attention-seeking, but I love her. She has been dating this new guy, Ryan, 27M, for about 3 months. Normally, I'm supportive of her relationships, but Ryan has always rubbed me the wrong way. From the beginning, he's had this obnoxious sense of humor that's more insulting than funny, and he tends to dominate conversations in a way that makes it uncomfortable to talk around him. I had my suspicions that he wasn't going to fit well into our family gatherings, but I tried to be civil. Fast forward to last week. My fiancé and I hosted a small engagement dinner for close family to celebrate and discuss some of the wedding details. It was supposed to be a relaxed evening, but the moment Ryan arrived, he started making inappropriate jokes about my fiancé and our relationship. At first, it was small stuff like teasing Alex for being boring and saying he wasn't really exciting enough for me. I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just trying to be funny, but it quickly escalated. At one point, Ryan said something like, "Honestly, Alex seems like the kind of guy who would get lost in a mall and need someone to hold his hand." Everyone at the table went quiet. My parents looked uncomfortable, and even my fiancé, who is normally very patient, had this pained expression on his face. I couldn't believe someone would be so rude at what was supposed to be a happy gathering. I told him directly, "That's enough, Ryan. You don't talk to my fiancé that way." He laughed and said, "I'm just joking, lighten up." I replied that it wasn't funny and left it at that. The next day, I had a long talk with Megan. I told her that I didn't think Ryan was appropriate for the wedding, considering the way he had insulted Alex and made everyone uncomfortable. I explained that the wedding was a celebration of our love, and I didn't want anyone there who would make it stressful or upsetting. Megan immediately went on the defensive. She said that I was overreacting, that it had just been a joke, and that I was being controlling. She accused me of trying to police who she loves and said it wasn't fair to exclude Ryan after only knowing him for a short time. I tried to explain that it wasn't about how long they'd been dating, but about respect and basic decency. I told her that even if he was joking, the fact that he felt it was okay to insult my fiancé in front of family was a huge red flag, and that I couldn't have someone like that at my wedding. Megan refused to listen and said I was overreacting and being petty. Since then, she hasn't spoken to me. She sent a few texts that are passive-aggressive, like, "I guess you don't care about family," and "Hope your wedding is as perfect as you think it is without me." I haven't replied because I honestly don't know what to say. I feel like I'm standing up for my fiancé and our special day, but I also feel like I might be overreacting and that this could permanently damage my relationship with my sister. I've asked a few friends and family members for their opinions. My mom says she understands why I wouldn't want Ryan at the wedding, but thinks I should try to smooth things over with Megan. My dad said he thinks I'm right, and that Ryan has no place there if he's going to make people uncomfortable. Alex, for the record, completely supports my decision. He's still upset about Ryan's comments and doesn't want to be around him on our big day. I feel torn because I love my sister, and it hurts to think that she might not be at my wedding, but at the same time, I feel like I have a responsibility to protect the atmosphere of the day and the people I love most. I can't imagine letting someone who disrespects my fiancé freely interact with guests and potentially ruin moments that we've been planning for months. Megan has been posting vague things on social media, like some people care more about weddings than family, and maybe love isn't really about respecting each other after all. I feel like she's trying to make me look like the bad guy. A couple of our mutual friends have asked me if I'm sure I'm not overreacting, which makes me second-guess myself sometimes. I did consider giving Ryan another chance at some point, maybe letting him attend and warning him to behave, but after thinking about it, I realized I don't want to have to constantly monitor him. I don't want to feel anxious about what he might say or do, and I don't want Alex to feel uncomfortable on our wedding day. I've told Megan this calmly, but she says I'm being unreasonable and selfish. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister that her boyfriend cannot come to my wedding after he insulted my fiance. I love my sister dearly, but I don't think I can let this slide, and I worry that standing firm might irreparably harm our relationship. On the other hand, I do feel like I might be coming across as controlling, and maybe I should just let it go and try to manage him during the wedding. I honestly don't know if I'm in the wrong here. I feel like I'm protecting my fiancé and my wedding day, but I also feel like I might be hurting my sister in the process. AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend move in with us, despite his claims I'm being unreasonable. I, 28F, live with my partner, Sam, 30M, in a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. Our apartment is just big enough for the two of us, and we've intentionally kept it that way to maintain a balance between having enough space and not overspending. I have a very close relationship with my younger brother, Alex, 25M, but lately we've been butting heads over something I feel is completely unreasonable. Alex has been dating his girlfriend, Jenna, 24F, for about a year now. She's a nice enough person, but they have a very chaotic lifestyle. They argue frequently, they're both quite messy, and they have very little respect for boundaries. Up until recently, everything they did didn't affect me directly, so I try to stay out of it. The issue began a few months ago when Alex and Jenna started joking about moving in together. Initially, I was excited about the idea of helping my brother. I'm the older sibling, and I always wanted to support him, especially because he's still figuring out his life after college. But then the situation got complicated. Alex and Jenna's current living arrangement is unstable. They've bounced between several apartments due to unpaid rent, landlord disputes, and general chaos. When I expressed concern that they might not be ready for cohabitation, Alex brushed me off, saying, "We're adults. We can handle it." About a month ago, Alex casually mentioned that if their current apartment fell through, they were considering moving in with Sam and me temporarily. I laughed it off at first, assuming it was a joke. But the more he mentioned it, the more serious he seemed. The idea was that they would just stay for a little while, until they figured out something permanent. I immediately told Alex that wasn't going to happen. I explained that our apartment was not suitable for more than 2 people. We have 1 bathroom. Our living room doubles as a workspace for Sam, and our bedroom is already cramped. I also mentioned that their lifestyle, frequent arguments, loud phone calls, and constant clutter would disrupt our routines and mental space. Alex seemed irritated but didn't push it further at the time. The conflict escalated last week. Alex called me out of the blue, furious that I wouldn't help him and Jenna. He accused me of being selfish and not loving him enough to support him in a time of need. He even said Sam and I were making them homeless if we refused to let them stay. I tried to reason with him calmly, emphasizing that helping someone doesn't have to mean sacrificing your own mental health and living situation. I suggested alternative solutions, helping them look for temporary rentals, assisting with moving logistics, or even letting them stay for a night or 2, but definitely not moving in indefinitely. Alex's response was to accuse me of being controlling and picking sides because Sam agreed with me. He said Sam should let them move in because he's a man and should be more understanding of other men's struggles. I tried to explain that it wasn't about gender. It was about the fact that our apartment literally cannot accommodate 4 adults comfortably. Alex got defensive and hung up. The next day, Jenna texted me directly. She framed it as a plea, saying she and Alex were desperate, and implied that I was cruel for prioritizing my comfort over family. She said that everyone in our family would understand if I just let them move in temporarily. I didn't respond to her because I honestly felt that any engagement would escalate the situation further. Now, our parents are involved. Apparently, Alex told them I was turning my back on him and that Sam was enabling me. They called me yesterday, trying to guilt me into reconsidering. I explained the situation calmly and reassured them that I love Alex and want to support him, but that doesn't mean compromising my home and sanity. They didn't fully understand and seem to think I'm overreacting. Here's where it gets trickier. A mutual friend of ours, Mike, who has lived with all of us at different times, texted me saying he thinks I'm overreacting and that I should make sacrifices for family. He even suggested I let Jenna move in, and if she's messy, we'll just deal with it. I was furious because I feel like people are completely dismissing the valid points I've made about space, lifestyle, and boundaries. I've tried multiple times to set boundaries without being cruel. I offered to help Alex find other housing, assist with moving logistics, and even offered financial advice since they both have unstable jobs. I've also suggested they look into short-term rentals, sublets, or even staying with other friends temporarily. But every suggestion seems to be dismissed as not enough by both Alex and Jenna. I feel trapped. I love my brother and want to be supportive, but I also know that if I let them move in, it will lead to constant arguments, ruined living space, and long-term resentment. I can already foresee the issues: loud arguments in the middle of the night, messes in shared spaces, and a lack of consideration for our routines. I've experienced enough with roommates, and know this is a recipe for disaster. I also feel guilty. Maybe I'm being selfish. But at the same time, I feel like the way Alex and Jenna are pressuring me is manipulative. It's making me question my values and whether I'm being a bad sister. I've tried to compromise multiple times, but every compromise seems insufficient to them. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother and his girlfriend move in with us despite their insistence, and my family/friends subtly pressuring me to do so. Character count, 6,348 if you want. I can also make an even longer, fully polished version that hits closer to 7,000 characters with more dialogue and tension to really mimic viral Reddit stories. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiance live with me temporarily, even though she claims she has nowhere else to go. So, this is going to be a long one, and I'll try to give all the details because my family has been blowing up my phone, and I feel like I need some outside perspective. I, 28F, live in a small but comfortable apartment in the city. I work full-time, and while I don't make huge money, I'm financially independent and have my life fairly sorted. I rent my place alone, and for context, I've always valued my privacy. I have roommates in the past, and while I've lived with people I love, I learned that having my own space is really important to me. My younger brother, Mark, 26, has been dating this woman, Chloe, 25F, for about a year. Chloe has a complicated relationship with her family, and, frankly, I've never gotten along with her very well. She's always seemed entitled, dramatic, and really pushy. She's the type to get upset if someone doesn't immediately respond to a text or if her Starbucks order isn't exactly right. She's also been financially irresponsible, according to Mark, and I know that she's bounced around living situations a lot over the past few years. About a week ago, Mark called me in a panic. Chloe apparently got evicted from her apartment because she hadn't been paying rent. I don't know all the details, but he made it sound urgent, like she had nowhere to go. He asked if she could stay with me temporarily until she got back on her feet. At first, I was taken aback. I told him that I value my privacy and that my apartment is really small. I also reminded him that I live alone and it's hard for me to have people over for a long period. He got frustrated and said I was being cold and selfish because I could literally just let her stay for a month or two. I told him I didn't think that would work for me. I offered to help Chloe in other ways. I could help her find an affordable place, assist with applications, or even give her a financial boost for a deposit. I made it clear that I was not comfortable having her live with me. Mark didn't like that and told me I was turning my back on family. I reminded him that we all have limits, and just because I have space doesn't mean I have to give it away, especially when I don't know her well and don't feel comfortable with her living in my personal space. Then Chloe called me directly. She was upset and told me I was heartless and that she thought I was supposed to be family. She said she could be completely invisible in my apartment, that she wouldn't make noise, that she wouldn't even touch my things, and that it was only temporary. She even started guilt-tripping me about how Mark had cried on the phone and how family should support each other. I tried to explain that supporting her didn't have to mean living together under one roof. I offered to help pay for a hotel or find a short-term sublet, but she kept insisting that staying with me was the only option. Things escalated when my parents got involved. They called me repeatedly, saying I should do the right thing and let Chloe stay, even if it was inconvenient. They said it was just for a little while and that I would be helping someone in need. I understand their point, but I also feel like they're missing the nuance of personal boundaries. I've always tried to help my family in other ways, financially and emotionally, but having someone live with me is a huge deal for me, especially someone I barely know. I even tried to reason with Mark and Chloe together over a call. I told them, calmly, that I wasn't saying no to helping her in general, but my apartment isn't a place she can live. I suggested temporary Airbnb rentals, couch surfing with friends, or me giving her some financial assistance. Mark accused me of playing games and not loving my family enough. Chloe started crying on the phone, saying she can't believe I'm being rejected like this and that I shouldn't make her feel like she's a burden. I started to feel really guilty because it felt like everyone in my family was teaming up against me. But I also felt my anxiety rising just thinking about her living in my apartment. I have routines. I work from home sometimes, I have pets, and I like having a clean, organized space. I felt like if I gave in, I'd be sacrificing my mental health for months to come. Now, here's the kicker. After I stood firm, Chloe started hinting on social media that I'm selfish and ungrateful for family. Mark has been passive-aggressively posting things about how some people just don't value family, and texting me lines about how I'm never there when it counts. I feel like I'm being villainized for something that seems reasonable to me. I never said I wouldn't help. I'm literally offering to help her get housing or support her financially, but living in my apartment is a hard no. Some friends say I'm right for having boundaries, but my parents and brother are furious. Even some extended family members have reached out to pressure me, saying I should let Chloe stay. I'm starting to feel like I'm the bad guy, even though I'm trying to set a boundary that protects my mental health. I guess my question is, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiance stay with me temporarily, even though she claims she has nowhere else to go? I'm trying to balance being helpful with protecting my own space, but I feel like everyone is calling me selfish. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.